But look at that front, that looks great. It sounds almost like a diesel, which might sound bad, but for me it doesn't. What Honda always nails is just the ride quality. Hello viewers. Today, or should I say tonight, we're going to review the new Honda HR-V 2019. And this is how it looks. The front end is of course the most what you lay your eyes on. If you compare it to the rear, I could say that almost everyone would agree with me that the front is the best part of the exterior. It's the typical Honda exterior, and an exterior that can be seen in all Honda models, to be honest. And this is a crossover, which means that the competition is very, very stiff. Subaru, Mazda, a lot of companies are making crossovers, and Honda really needs to make something special in order to get ahead of the competition. And for me, at least the rear, we're trying to photograph it because we're going to review it on the webpage later, and it was very difficult to find an angle for the rear that was able to work when we photographed it. And I would say the rear is very compared to the front, there's not a lot of happening. But yeah, you can see all this is plastic, and we have what I think is very good, a tailpipe, a real tailpipe, alloy wheels, dark blue paint, optional. But look at that front, that looks great. And this is the extended air package to make it look a bit more aggressive. But yeah, the front, very good. So let's see how it looks inside. This is the key. It's ordinary. You can see no start and stop here, which I don't know. You can see here too. Pretty nice to have metal door handles. So yeah, we're inside now. There's some camera gear and some gloves because it's still a bit cold here in Sweden. We're in Stockholm right now, and we're going to have a drive. And during the drive, I'll talk about the interior and how the car feels to drive and all the technical aspects of it. So let's go. This is some Swedish radio channel. So you start the car and you greet it with these 3 gauge clusters: analog, analog, digital. And what you want to get, the information that you want to have here, you can choose by these 2 different knobs, so to speak. So you can choose what you want. I have my fuel consumption. You can see here I can sear it, but right now I've driven 161 kilometers and I average 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers. So 0.66 liters per 10k. The steering wheel, I like it a lot. It's very simple, but still there's a lot. It's very user friendly. You have the volume and you can change the source, so you can have Bluetooth or you can have radio or whatever you want. On the right side you have your cruise control, so it's very easy. And like when the car got picked up, I mean, it took like a couple of minutes to figure out the cruise control. But yeah, on the left part here we have the eco knob, and that will make the car more environmental friendly. It will use less fuel. On the right hand side we have the gear knob. This is an automatic, a CVT gearbox, which means no gear changes. We'll talk about that later. In the middle we have the infotainment system. It's very simple. You have these major parts, not that much apart from those, which is navigation, telephone, and sound. These three are the main parts. Navigation, pretty easy to use, where you can choose where you're going to be. The phone is very easy to pair. You can see now it's a bit slow, but for the most part I find it pretty fast. The sound, I will talk about it briefly. The sound is not up to par. When listening to radio and just random talk on the radio, it's fine. But when you put on some music, the bass is really lacking. It's a bit hard, so it's difficult to enjoy the music properly. Here in the middle we have the digital aspect of what I think, I'm not 100% sure. A lot of car companies has gone to the more digital stuff. So now you can raise and lower your temperature with touch. It doesn't work with your gloves, which I found out just today, which I think is a bit sad. And I'm a bit old-fashioned because I like to have a knob to be able to choose my temperature, because you don't need to look, because when you're driving, you're lowering and increasing the temperature, it's difficult to find, so you tend to look at the dials, which means that you don't look at your road. A bit dangerous, maybe something to think of, car manufacturers. Sometimes the future is not always better. But anyways, it's difficult to see inside, but the thing is, we're in Stockholm, and when you want to drive and be able to focus and talk, it's best to do it in the night because there's not that much traffic. But we'll try to ride right now and drive away, and we'll talk more about the car. We're going into the central Stockholm, and then we'll go out. So yeah, this is a petrol, 1.5 liter if I'm not mistaken, and it has around 120 horsepower, which for a crossover of this size is okay. Because the thing is about this engine, it doesn't rev that much. It sounds almost like a diesel, which might sound bad, but for me it doesn't, because there's so much torque downrange, so you don't really need to rev it that much. And this is a trend that I've seen for car manufacturers. For example, the new Golf has a very torquey petrol, and this is the same. And I'm pretty glad for it, because I mean, you're not going to do some spiritual driving with this car. I mean, it's a crossover. So it's almost winter. It's going to be spring soon here in Stockholm. So it's around 0 degrees Celsius here. So the leaves and the flowers has not started to bloom, unfortunately. So it will be a bit bleak, but I hope that you find the Swedish or the Stockholm interesting and nice. So we'll get you some sightseeing too, which will be done with other cars as well, not just in Stockholm Central Stockholm, but also outside. So yeah, you see people are going to pick up people on the club or whatever. But I'm getting sidetracked now, so get back to the car. The HRV, it's new, 2019 model, and it has a 1.5 petrol engine and CVT gearbox. And you see, warning, it's starting to get cold on the road. Why don't we start with the safety systems? This is one of them, which is pretty standard. It's almost every car I've driven has had it, and it also has, for example, not lane assist, but it will warn you when you start to drift out of your lane. It's very difficult to try, because this is one of the things that I've not been able to start or turn off. I think it's on these parts to the left here. Yes, that's the green one. Now it should be active, so why not try it? So we're getting right. Nothing. There's pretty clear lines here, and it doesn't really work. Doesn't do anything. Weird, doesn't work. That's one test that it failed at least. But that is what it should supposed to do. It should warn you when you're starting to drift off. But anyways, it also has collision warning, which is something that I have tested before, and it has worked in many times for different speeds as well. And further, the technology is very easy. You don't have to put on so much. You don't have to put much thought into managing all this stuff. It just they're there to help you when stuff goes wrong. So we're accelerating to 70 kilometers an hour, which is the speed limit right here, which you can see here, 70. I'm doing 69 now with the cruise control. The cruise control, I have tried a lot to get it to be able to, when there's a car in front of you and it goes a bit slower, that the car that I'm driving is also going slower automatically. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to put this on, and I think that it doesn't exist on this car. Maybe it's on a higher model. I will put it in the video if it does. But I think with the technology that exists today, it should have this feature. But yeah, this is a brief overview of the safety systems. There are more, which you will be able to read about on the review that will be done on this car on the web page on honestcarreviews.com. Sorry, .se. So yeah, we're going into central Stockholm. This is Green Line, and we're doing soon 70 kilometers an hour. And there we are. Let's get back to the gearbox, which I mentioned before. This is a CVT. It doesn't really change gear, which means that it sounds like a lawnmower, because this is a 4-banger engine. The sound is like any other ordinary car. So, however, you can put this gearbox into sport, and you have pedals behind the steering wheel that will mimic changing gear, but it doesn't feel like changing a gear completely. I will show you. Slow down a bit. Sport. Gears down. I mean, it feels like changing gear, but when you're accelerating from like a standstill, it feels very weird when you're changing gear. And it doesn't like when you try to shift up more than like what the car is made for. Like if you're going 20 and you are gearing changing gear to like the 3rd gear, it doesn't let you, which is standard. I've seen it on a lot of other cars. So it's 50 here, so we slow down. And we're going into Fridhemsplan, and we're going to see some parts of Stockholm. Yeah, so we're done some highway driving, almost, and I would say that it's very comfortable. The seats are very comfortable. It's pretty supportive. A bit thin. I'm 187 centimeters. Not extremely wide, but I would say that the seats are pretty cramped, and I could see that some other person like with a family having some more haven't been exercising that much or something would have a hard time sitting comfortably in these seats, because they're pretty heavily bolstered and they're pretty narrow. But the bolster is not far out, it's just bolstered tightly and not that long out. So it feels like you're not 100% sitting in the seat. That's just a minute detail, nothing that will make you feel, oh, I can't buy this seat. But you at least have to try and feel, is this comfortable for me? For me, it feels comfortable. So yeah, we're going into Fridhemsplan right now. And as I said, the ride, perfect. I have driven more expensive cars than this, and this far exceeds a lot of them. And I've driven Hondas before, and I will in the future, hopefully. And what Honda always nails is just the ride quality. Crossovers are not, as you would say, made to make you feel like a superhero going fast and such, but, or not but, instead it is the car that takes you to that you take for a trip to use as a daily to go for work, to school or whatever. And for that it works amazing. It has tested. We have tested to go and shop with it, and because it's a crossover, it's pretty high up. Not that high, not like a SUV, but if you have a lot of heavy luggage or food bags. Let's see here. It can be difficult to raise everything that you have shopped and put it in the rear. Which is for, I mean, if you're old, maybe that would be a problem. But instead of that, I don't think that would be a problem. This is, I will mention the name, the word crossover a lot, because it's easy to say that, oh, this is a mini SUV, but an SUV should be, I mean, when I think SUV, I think luxury. And don't get me wrong, this car, for the amount of money that you pay, I would go through the prices more later. But this is not a mini SUV, because even though it has technology and everything, it's not the level of luxury that I would expect from a SUV. So, a crossover, right? That's where it fits and that's where it belongs. And as I said before, the competition is fierce. You have Subaru, you have Mazda. Everyone is fighting for the top dog. And this, as standard, around 200,000 Swedish kroner, or around 20,000 euros. That gets you a lot of car for your buck. However, if you put on some extra features, it will go around 250. And those, I mean, 50,000 extra will give you some more exterior features, some more tech features, and some, let's see, the rims, some bigger rims. We're starting to get, here's Stockholm City Library. Here's some really bad road, which is, I mean, really bad, and it coped with them fairly well. I would say because it's an automatic and it's pretty high up, it's pretty heavy, but it doesn't feel that heavy. And because it has some weight to it, it copes easier with the bumps. It at least feels that way. Let's see here where we should go. Why not go straight? But let's try the manual gearbox. Not the manual, but the, see, big bumps, handles them pretty well. The manual shift knobs here. See, I want to go into fourth. It's at 2,000. You see, people just go whatever they want. Taxi drivers just put in, so you have to be careful. I want to go into fourth, and it won't allow me. If I would have a manual, which you can have, you can choose either a manual or automatic. But with this feature, you can have like a manual. And if I'm honest, do you really need a manual? I mean, if you want it for the feeling, I get it. But why are you getting a crossover with a manual? Some food for thought. So yeah, we're soon getting into near KTH, and my first impressions, I had driven it a lot, and my first impression was, yeah, it's comfortable. It's great for long distance driving, but it also works driving. As I mean, it's difficult to find anything that's amazingly wrong with a car of this nature, a crossover. And when you don't have anything that's 100% wrong, you have to be nitpicky. And that's what I will start doing now. Maybe this is something that was just something random, but when I picked the car up, I have driven it like 2 minutes and the tire pressure sensor popped up. So called Honda. They said, gave me some help to reset the measuring system or whatever, and it hasn't come up then. So I don't know, maybe something random. And as I spoke about before, the rear. I mean, come on, it could be better. It's, now I'm nitpicky, but I think it's sloppy. I mean, this design in the rear, they could have done in like 10 years before. It doesn't belong in 2019. It's 2020 soon, for Christ's sakes. Let's go right here. And maybe you can't see it that good, but there's a line here, very big, that is for the AC to blow out air. I talked about people getting some input because I think it's okay. Some people think that it's ugly and cheap, and I'm starting to agree with them. When you can see the mechanism inside, and just put on some plastic or whatever, you can just block it out and you wouldn't notice. But I mean, you could have maybe blocked it out and it would be much nicer. Other than that, as we say in Sweden, when you want to buy a car, you buy a Volkswagen Polo. And I'm starting to feel the same with the Honda HR-V. If you want to buy a car, you buy this car. I haven't been driving very spiritually, because this is not what this car is about. But I like the way it steers. It's very controllable, and you get some response from this. I mean, it's obviously it's not like driving a race car, but I mean, it's not like you're touching a dead fish. Let's leave it at that. So for that, I have to give Honda some applause, because it's easy to just make a dead steering feeling and just don't care about the steering at all. And because it is a car, and depending on what person that will buy it, maybe he or she, whatever, doesn't like to drive spiritually, and that's fine. And this car is obviously not made for that. But if they want to, they will get some sort of feeling, which I feel for a car that has that the priority is not just driving feel. I will give my hats off for Honda for that too. So yeah, we're going into the harbor in Swedish. See, now we're getting some bumps, and now you can almost hear some rattling, very faint, but you can hear it also slightly. Let's see. No, maybe we should turn around here. Yeah, we'll turn around here. And I mean 120 horsepower, which will I will mention a bit more about the fuel consumption, because that's pretty interesting. The fuel consumption from this engine, because it's a petrol, you might expect it to be a bit thirsty because it's a bit heavy and everything, but now it's 6.6 liters per 100 k's, and this is from a lot of city driving. I did a lot of highway driving, and I got it down to around 5 liters per 100k, which for a car of this size is really good. I mean really good, especially petrol. And what I find pretty interesting is that they still have a diesel. Why doesn't they have a hybrid? I mean, 2019. Why don't they have a hybrid? I would get a hybrid all day long. I mean, you can get the the torques and the efficiency when you drive in city. But yeah, that's me. I'm actually starting to run out of things to pick on, because it is such a good standard car. So let's go into what some cars have problems with, which is space. Which we tried the rear leg room, no, not the leg room, the cargo space, which was okay, but we will check it again so you, the viewer, can get a sense for yourself. And I will also sit in the rear of the driver's seat, because I'm pretty tall, and when I sit behind, it will be like two full-grown men will be sitting behind each other. So that will be great, a great way to test. Stadium, very old. So we'll take a right here soon at KTH, and try out the legroom, and that will be almost the final part. Here, right. It's a bit dark here. So let's see here. Not a lot of people here, so you can do the safe, not in the street where there's a lot of cars. It's night, but you still have to be safe. There's a lot of light, so you can see what I'm doing. But I can say 200,000 as a base, I would buy it. However, as I mentioned before, you have the Subaru, which is around 100,000 kronor more, but it is a lot of, the interior is a lot better materials, more tech, more styling, so to speak. And the thing is it 100,000 more car? I'm not 100% sure. I'll let you, the viewers, decide that. But yeah, here we are where there's some light. not a lot of people. See, let's go back and see how much space there is. So I'm touching with my knees, which is fine. And the leg room, because they have this curve inside, there's quite a lot of headroom actually. I'm not touching. I mean, if there would be 3 people in the rear, I would definitely be touching this part here. But I would say that is a pass. And let's see the rear door and open this one. So you see, you have this ridge here. I mean, it's not that high, but the ridge, I mean, when you lift up stuff, it can be a bit heavy. You can't fit a lot of stuff here though. And I like that, yeah, they have a lot of car manufacturers has a lot of insulation. With this it's very quiet driving, but when they have a lot of insulation, it's easy to go inside with the wheel arches, which they haven't, so it's easy to fit a lot of stuff here.